All right, technical difficulties out of the way. We're live.
We are cranking. What's
We're
going on,
cranking.
brother? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. This past weekend in Arizona, well, I guess not this past weekend, 2 weekends ago, uh, my talk in Arizona went really well. I spoke on, funny enough, I'm calling the whole theory opportunistic irony because I think it's funny because people are talking about AI ruining community and taking people who use AI are getting pulled further away from their clients. But I was actually presenting on how to use AI to build more community around your business through content generation. And before anyone, chimes in and says anything silly, I'm not talking about having AI make your content. I'm saying have AI teach you how to make better content using your own voice, your own assets that you've already created. And it was really well received. People loved it. I got a lot of feedback. It was only my second time giving like a full talk. The only other time I've given a talk, I was on a panel, so I didn't really get like my own shine.
hmm
Um, but got some really good feedback. About 20 people took advantage of the free resource that I provided them, which was basically a done for you system on how to create your own AI content manager, basically. And yeah, we loved it. We stayed an extra couple days, did a trail run, did a hike, ate some great food. Yeah, Phoenix is awesome. I love Arizona. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I was just there for like a speed and performance summit, and we were right. I was right on Camelback, like the Camel Mountain.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
that's the hike that we did.
okay, yeah, so that's right where I was. Stayed at the hotel right at the bottom of that, which was super rad. Love like great weather,
Oh yeah.
awesome town. Just super like healthy. A lot of
Yeah.
like gyms everywhere. People are outside, so great vibe. How long was your talk, like in total?
I think I spoke for 60 minutes and then we did about another 15 minutes of question and answer. It always boggles my mind how averse people are to doing things that are uncomfortable. And I say it boggles my mind in the sense that, like, I definitely recognize that I find certain things uncomfortable. You and I have had this conversation, especially when it comes to my own content. Like, there's certain types of things that I just have a lot of friction towards, but I'm
hmm
not afraid to go into that friction. There's so many strength coaches in specific that just opt out. It's like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to focus on the thing that I'm good at, which is coaching, which good on you. If that's the best part of your business is the service that you're offering, great. You're
hmm
90% of the way there. But that 10% that you're missing by opting out is handicapping you in the other 10%. Like, your service only gets better when people are more bought in, when the community is better, when people are more identified with your personal brand. If you have a personal brand, and strength coaches just don't want to do that stuff. They see social media as a thing that is pulling them away from coaching. And in my opinion, finding a way to play the game, but play it your way is always going to be better. Even if it's not the perfect way to play the game or the most optimal or advantageous, you just have to play the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think there's importance of getting dirty in the trenches to some degree. Kind of like you're saying, like it doesn't mean you have to go all in on something or stick with it for a super long period of time, but I do think that there is valuable information learning process of just diving into that sort of ecosystem or whatever you're getting friction in, right,
Mhm.
like to some degree, because you need to understand your business and your personal brand as a whole and all the different areas of it. That doesn't mean that that needs to become the main priority or focus, but you have to understand what you're doing and how you can use that. And if something were to go wrong where there's a bottleneck, you need to be able to understand and identify that within that part of your business. And I went from early in my stages, and genuinely I really enjoyed that type of stuff, whether it was like the editing or the back end stuff. I loved, and this is like back even with like ClickFunnels, right? Like back in the
Oh yeah,
day,
yeah.
like trying to like build your own ClickFunnels. Was it something that I loved to do? Absolutely not. And was it something that I was really good at? No, but I needed to spend enough time. And that's like very minimal, entry point to get in. Even with like AI, it's like I think if you spend a couple hours,
Hmm.
maybe not even a week, like maybe a month, I think that still puts you ahead of like 90% of the people that don't even want to get involved with it. And being, that top 10% is huge. And it really doesn't take that much time. You know what I mean? So I
No.
feel like you're only limiting yourself and your capabilities of your business, or having a better understanding of your business and yourself, by not kind of leaning into that friction, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
And sometimes too, even with friction, you find it's really not that bad, and maybe you really start to enjoy it. Or two, you just get in, and you realize, okay, I know the basics. This really isn't for me, but as long as I understand it, I can then either have somebody else come in and I can explain to them what I need to be done, and then they can
Mhm.
explain it back to me in a way I can understand. And that's a good place to be. But yeah, I totally agree, man. If you're just not even getting involved, or you're doing it out of fear or laziness, like what does that say about all the other aspects of your business? To some degree, I feel like there is a little bit of truth there as well.
Yeah, I think on the other end of that, and I think you will have a phenomenal insight on it, is there are coaches that just opt out. There are coaches that do it but do it poorly. There are coaches that do it well. But then there are coaches that go the total wrong direction in that they start to become content creators and forget the fact that they're actually coaches. And I've met more and more of these people in the last little bit because building a following on social media has almost been systematized, where there is a specific strategy that you can use to get more views and get more visibility, and they get addicted to the views, the visibility, the follower count, the vanity metrics, as we've
Mhm.
spoken about in the past. But I spoke to a coach last week who's added 5,000 followers in the last month and $0 of coaching revenue.
Whoa,
And it
yeah.
was like, what's the point? Like, if you're not turning those eyes into qualified leads, what is the purpose? And that got me thinking, well, technically, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, these are all just vectors to get people's email addresses, because
Mhm.
those email addresses you then own. And then you can run a newsletter and have them in a funnel and nurture those leads. But if you're building a garden on someone else's property and all of a sudden Instagram goes away, your business will die. So I don't want to be an influencer, nor do I see myself as a content creator, but content creation is part of the marketing strategy for our businesses. Now, you've been a coach this entire time, but I would also put you in the category of influencer because you've built a ton of influence with a follower number that is very large, but also very engaged. Like I
Mhm.
saw that at the Arnold. Like the people that follow you love you. Was there ever a time where you maybe leaned more towards influencer content creator, or was the content creation just kind of part of the journey that you were sharing?
Yeah, I think there's different phases of it for sure. Like when I started it, it had nothing to do with wanting to be really an influencer. It was more me documenting my journey and my progress. But then I saw the value in the way it helped with marketing to then become leads for coaching, whether that was in person or online. And that was always the primary focus. Whereas like coach first, content creation was usually at that point like just doing stuff I was interested in. I wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily playing the game. And then as I started to pick up more tricks, I started to see, okay, if I focus on my thumbnails, or if I focus on these types of videos based on what I saw either online or in my own catalog of content, I just started to lean more into that. And I think that's a really good place to be. Like I was just saying to my wife, it was there yesterday. my Instagram started to grow again, which has been like a multiple year hiatus, which was crazy. But in the last month, I've probably got 5 or 6 thousand followers. But what I
Okay.
see is that directly correlates to my coaching applications and my app
Hmm.
subscriptions or some sort of monetary value. So that's what I look at and I measure, which is great for me.
Hmm.
I by no means aspire to be like a influencer in the way that most people would think of an influencer, mainly because it goes against my morals and values, and I'm giving up parts of myself, like almost like selling your soul to the devil. And to me,
Hmm.
that's not worth it. Now, I will say there was a point in time where I was very consumed with the views, and ultimately that led to me being very unhappy and mentally more of a head case. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum, but only to find that I needed to go back to my roots. And that just is
Hmm.
where I was happiest with what I was doing with my job. And then just mentally, I now can just put something up that I genuinely want to put up. I don't care how it does. If it does great, that's awesome. I equally have an inclination of what's probably going to do better than something else. And then I just have to ask myself, like, is it in line with my morals and values? Sure. Yeah, I'm going to post it. If it's not in line with my morals and values, then I'm not posting it. I don't care how many views or followers it gets
Yeah.
me. Because technically, or not technically, but usually you have a good split of those are people you either want to or don't want to work with. And I'd rather just target the people that I specifically want to work with and stay true to my morals and values.
Yeah. And I think that plays into what we were saying about play the game, but you should play it your way. Like the perfect example I have for myself is this new trend. I shouldn't say new. It was very popular before. Now it's getting more popular now. It's posting like B-roll clips with text over top and some trending audio. And I personally think that that type of video is popping off right now because it allows people to quickly resonate with the message.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, like one of the ones that did well for me was the amount of effort it takes to become a terrible runner is honestly insane. And there's a lot of people who've taken up running recently who suck at running and are working really, really hard. So they see that and they're like, man, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And so they click the like button and they watch it. And I'm like, cool. But to play the game, I've gotten the views. To play the game my way, I want to make sure that they leave with some value. So I'm putting a lot of time into the captions on those posts and I'm making
Right.
sure that the captions are stories that I've written or shared, um, and that allow me to be authentic to me. Because I don't want just views for views. I want views that are actually going to lead to new coaching clients or new mentorship clients. So playing the game, but playing it your way, I think is one of the most important traits that I see in successful people across any industry. And I mean, we've both been around really successful people. We're trying very hard to be successful in our own ways and the things that we're doing. And so there's certain qualities that we want to emulate in those people. And I think playing the game, but playing it your way, like you said, in alignment with your morals, your ethics, your values, is incredibly important.
Can we just give Paul a round of applause for how he transitions into our topics that you didn't even know our topics for the podcast? I mean, I got to say, dude, you do it every time, and you do it so smoothly and so nicely. Like I was just like, okay, he's talking about this, sick, and then all of a sudden it just transitions right into our topic. So you do a very good job of that, and I just wanted to let
I
you know that.
appreciate it.
So
I'm working I'm working really hard on this podcast thing.
yeah, I don't know if you were like setting that up or if it just
Nope.
came naturally, but basically, guys, our point of this topic, we said on our text messages, we're just going to catch up a little bit. I want to hear about how Arizona went, and then
Mhm.
why don't we just throw around some ideas of like core traits we see in high performers, and then he just absolutely knocks it out of the ballpark. But I do think that's a great one, and it's kind of funny because you use that example with the reel, and see, like in my mind, I'm down. I'm doing the same exact thing, right? I'm trying to keep it like a as short as possible to get the point across visually or what's going to draw people in. And then always at the end, I have like, read more in depth in the caption below. So
Mhm.
then that's where I try to put the meat. Now, my personal funny hang up when we talk about like doing it in your way is I won't use trending audio that I actually do not like. so,
Oh yeah, that's
so,
true.
so like for me, it's like there's so many trending songs. Like I'll see them, and I'm like, oh, I know this will probably like pop off, but it just doesn't fit either myself or my brand. So it's like if I'm putting, these like metalcore songs or music that I personally like, and then out of nowhere, it's like this like I don't know, like weird hip hoppy, like out of the blue type of thing. It's like to me, it's like that just doesn't fit right. It's like when you look at somebody's like profile grid, and I hate to be this way, but it is true. Like I do love collaborative posts, and I think they're awesome. But sometimes for me, it's tough because it doesn't match like my branding in the grid.
Mhm.
That it's like I'll do it because it's that is a more of a priority than the look at that example, but still it's like I see it and I'm like, dude, it messes my internal chi up right now. Do you feel the same way or no?
I do. So I've done the first thought that popped into my head when you were talking about trending audio. Have you heard this new trending audio that's that Evanescence song that got really, really popular?
Yeah, the like the bring me to life one or
Yeah,
bring
Bring Me
me
to Life, but it's Cartman singing it.
no, oh, I've never heard that, but I mean I'm sure that's funny, dude.
It's incredible. So that was my one thought. My thought that's actually on topic. What I've done in the past, depending on who it is I'll accept the collaboration and then in like a day or two, I'll just hide it from my main feed.
I respect your honesty. That's actually hilarious. They're like, where did that post go? You're like,
Well, because
ah.
I've gotten collaborations before where it's like, if I'm in the reel, yeah, totally, no problem. Um, I mean, I'll share, I'll share it here because he's a buddy of mine, and I know he probably won't watch this, but you know, my buddy Mike, Dr. Mike T. Nelson, collaborated a reel with me, and it wasn't. It was just him walking, and I was like, I'm not in this. Number one, and
Yeah,
number two,
yeah.
you didn't even mention my name, even though the topic was something that we had spoken about when we hung out in Vegas. And I was like, I'll accept this, but I'm only going to leave it here for 2 days, and then I just
Hey man. No, I appreciate it. It's like fine. I'll get like the either the posts or like story tags and I'll open it, but it has like 80 other people tagged in the
yeah.
post. So I'm just like, brother, like come on now. Like I know you're just looking to get this on like the story share and like I respect it and I appreciate it, but at the same time, like I'm not throwing this up with like 80 other dudes on there. It just doesn't fit correctly. You know what I mean? And equally, like I am kind of not a hypocrite, but it's funny because I'll put up music that I like on a reel. Back to that point, but equally, like I put up a freaking Zelda ocarina tune to one of the videos that I knew was so weird and bizarre, but it just made me happy and like I thought it was
Yeah.
funny. Probably 0.1% of the people, like anyone else listening to that was like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of music is this? You know what I mean? But like, so that's where it does. I don't necessarily make sense, but it makes sense to me, and I'll go with it. But
Yeah,
anyway,
listen, at the end of the day, people don't watch Instagram with the sound on for the most part anyway.
yeah, 100%. Like sometimes, and also I think you got to just do things like for you. Like I know that the
Mhm.
Gary Vee always says it's basically like two for them, one for you, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like obviously you're trying to provide value and serve others, but if you're not fulfilled, like what's
Oh
the
yeah.
point in any of that?
Well, I don't know how much like we want to get in the weeds with social media because there's a lot of other things to talk about, but
For sure.
something that I think people need to keep in mind, especially when you're building a personal brand, is there are different posts for different purposes. The quote is the medium is the message.
Mhm.
So if you're actually trying to provide value in a post, let's say it's an educational type post, it is not going to get a ton of views just by virtue of the way that it looks and the way that it has to
Yeah.
look for you to get your message across. It's not going to trend well. You will not get a ton of views on it. But the views that you do get are going to be of higher quality. And we call that middle of funnel.
Mhm.
The posts that are going to get a lot of views, that are very resonant, that it's a bit harder to link it to something of value, like my running post. That post was purely geared towards getting more eyes. That's it. I know I'm not going to sell anything from that post. In fact, you're probably not going to sell anything from any of your posts. You're going to sell stuff from the things you post in your stories.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's like as long as you know what the goal of that post is, you can then filter the outcomes of the post through this lens of, well, what was the intent? Who is it intended for? And what was the desired outcome? And then you can make better decisions. So just had to kind of qualify that. What's another, we talked about people who play the game, but play it their way. What's another trait that you see in high performers? Maybe let's caveat it too, like traits in high performers that you would like to further emulate.
That I would like to further emulate. I think one that I've been working on, like a big one, especially this past year, is definitely eliminating distractions. And it was kind of funny because, and I think we talked about it briefly in one of our other podcasts, but when you had originally done the podcast with me, like where we first met each other, you
Mhm.
made a comment about like, oh, are you like heading into like a season of saying no? And I was kind of like in between when I answered that, like, yeah, some stuff yes, some stuff no. But I think since that initial podcast where we met each other, for your actual, like the other professional
My
thing,
actual
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, the actual podcast, um, I've definitely been working on that more and more, and I
Mhm.
feel like high performers, or highly successful people in their own regard, are really good at that. Like they understand what's worth the time and the energy, or that could be with relationships or projects, any of that. And for me, I'm at the point where that's something I've really had to narrow down. And I went through a phase, for years and years of saying yes to everything. And I think there's a ton of value in doing that, or
Mhm.
going through a phase like that. But then I think equally, once you get to a certain point, and it's different for everybody, and it's sometimes it's just more intuitive, and you're going through different seasons of life, you have to have the inverse of that. Like you have to have the yin and the yang. And that's something that I keep kind of bringing back into my mind. Or I was on a really good podcast that I actually think you should definitely get on.
Oh, okay.
But it was a lot that had to do with the mental side of things, and the yin and the yang, and then how that equates, even with training or with business. And we had a lot of good conversations throughout that podcast. But for me, I'm definitely trying to work on eliminating those distractions more and more, and decluttering, whether it's professional work or the mental space, for me to really level up myself, which it's hard to do, man. Like
It is.
and it's one of those things where like you do feel bad because it's not necessarily in your nature. Like me as a human, like that's just
Mhm.
one of those things that is tough for me. So I have to constantly be reminding myself of why I need to do this, and once again, like look at those priorities that we've talked about. But I think that's a pretty common trait amongst most people that I aspire to be like, or emulate in my own flavor. So that would be one for me.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally on board with that. I was I was actually talking to a friend of mine this morning about this exact thing because he actually came to Charlotte and we were supposed to meet up, but he wasn't able to because they were running around and doing a bunch of things to for like Easter weekend.
Hmm.
Now, because I know that saying no is a superpower, I didn't have an issue with it. It's like, hey man, would have
Yeah.
been great to see you, but I knew you had other things going on. And I honestly want to have a quality visit with you. I don't want to just,
Right.
oh, hey, what's up? Give me a hug. See you later. Um, but we go through this every time now that we go home. I've just stopped telling people that I'm coming home because the only reason I'm coming home is to see my mom, dad, and my brother. And if I get to see you at other times, that's great, but that's my priority. So
Hmm.
I actually had a friend of mine get upset with me that, I wasn't going to make time to see him. I said, hey, dude, I'm here for 2.5 days. I've been away in another country living for the last 7 months. I'm not driving 45 minutes to come see you. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be at the gym at this time. I'm going to be with my family every other minute I can be. Otherwise, I'm working. So if you want to see me, come to the gym.
Hmm.
And you have to, like, it's in my nature to help people. It's in my nature to be there for others. And I love doing that. But I also have to protect my peace of mind. So whether it comes to like the personal relationship side or, I mentioned to you and John, like I said yes to way too many things I guess it's spring, and did 3 trips last month. I have 3 trips next month. I'm putting together a seminar. I'm putting together a webinar. I still have to finish my taxes, and I'm genuinely feeling overwhelmed. I reach out to you guys. I'm like, hey, this is where we're at. I know better than to be in that position.
Mhm.
High performers genuinely know what their limits are, and they are totally fine to say no, even when saying no to a thing might actually benefit them in the short term. They know in the long term that it won't. Like you with Summer Strong. I know there's nothing you would want more than to come hang out with us at Summer Strong, but you made a commitment to the lacrosse team and you also have other things going on with your business locally. It would be irresponsible for you to come.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, true friends are going to recognize that boundaries are there for a reason. And ultimately, boundaries for us create freedom.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one too, and you already alluded to it, but it's like you want to have the best possible time, whether it's at whatever event or with the
Mm-hmm.
people. So, I've just know anytime that I try to cram so much to get it all done, one, it just goes by way too fast. I feel stressed out and anxious. And, then you come back and I don't really feel like you get the true
Mm-hmm.
purpose of the trip. And that always is a worse feeling for me
Yeah.
than if I just, have that delayed gratification, which is a big one, to set it up when it's a good time for everybody, and make sure that you're truly getting the most out of that experience and that quality time. When even for you, maybe it's like supposed to be some sort of mental break or refresher.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if you don't do that, then you're literally back to where you were before the trip, and probably even worse. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that's a big one. Another one for me that I've been trying to work on, and it's like a double-edged sword because I think it's equally like one of my superpowers, but could also just be one of my biggest kryptonites is procrastination. Like for sure,
Mm-hmm.
like I've always been able to get after it, with crunch time or when there's a deadline. I'm also one of the people where I like whenever I'm going to start something, I really want to either get it all done or most of it done in a short amount of time, rather than trying to handle it more like a step by step project. And some it's weird. Like some projects, I'm totally fine doing that with. Other stuff, which I think it's more so when I get really excited about something,
Mm-hmm.
I really struggle, to be like, okay, well, I either want to get it done like this week or over this next couple of days, when in reality, I'd probably be better off doing it over the course of like 1 or 2 months. But I
Mm-hmm.
definitely struggle with that. And then either if I know like taxes is a big one, like for both
Oh
of
yeah.
us, I'm
Yeah.
sure like, I said to myself last year, like and I made this spreadsheet of like, okay, here's what we're going to do month by month. I have everything. And then I just fell off of it. And then here we are, I got a couple days to submit everything and I'm scrambling and adding more stress to my plate. Equally, like I kind of enjoy that rush, and getting after it, but I know that that's not ideal because the stress is way higher than it should be with everything else I have going on. And I know that people who are really getting after it, like they would have handled that stuff properly, more professionally, or hired somebody to take care of
Mhm.
that so it's not on their plate. So that's like for me a big one. But I've been that way my whole life, so it's tough because I've gotten good at it. It's
Yeah.
like
Oh, dude, I'm in the same boat, man.
it's
I'm in
it's
the
it's
same boat.
tough, dude. So it's like this, like, do I keep it that way or do I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that there are periods where I'm like I am so stressed out and it's I did this to myself.
100%. 100%. The high performers do a few things in this regard. So the first one is they're okay to chunk down projects into steps and they actually start off doing it that way. So and there's certain aspects of my business slash life that I'm really good at that with. When it comes to creating educational content or webinars or even the talk that I did in Arizona, I booked like a couple hours at a time to work on it multiple times until it's done, because I know that for the way that I work, every time I sit down, I review the work I've already done and then add to it. And so that length kind of just keep chunking away at it, and it lets me be as analytical as possible with the process. But I also enjoy that work. So it's
Mhm.
easier to sit down. When it comes to taxes, I just want to get it out of the way. And so if I don't have a 4-hour block that I can just sit down and do it, it's just not going to get done. But I need to be better at that. The other thing is, as a high performer, if I want to be a high performer, I need to recognize the things that I like doing and the things that I don't like doing. Um, One of my favorite books that I've read, it's called "Buy Back Your Time" by Dan Martell, and
Mhm.
he throws up this graph, and it's like things that you like to do and are good at, things that you don't like to do and you're good at, things that you like to do and you suck at, and then things that you don't like to do and suck at. And based on where things fall within that those quadrants, it's what you should offload to somebody else.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people, whether you're early on in your business journey or you are maybe a little bit strapped for cash, you kind of see any expense as a negative, and you
Right.
don't see the far-reaching benefits of it. So I'll just use our bookkeeper as an example. So I've never had a bookkeeper before we moved to the US. I didn't feel confident navigating the US tax system because I had no familiarity with it. So the first hire that I made after I hired an accountant was to hire a bookkeeper. And that bookkeeper cost us about $300 a month. So one of my clients, every month, their payment essentially just gets funneled to my bookkeeper.
Mhm.
But that bookkeeper is saving me hours and hours and hours of time filtering expenses and filling out paperwork. And even this year, when there was an issue with our Canadian taxes and our US taxes, linking them together because there's a tax agreement between both countries, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need you to do this." And I literally wrote back, "I'm sorry, I can't. Can you do this for me?" And they said, "Sure, cool." So my $3,600 that I paid in bookkeeping fees for the year, well, if I'm charging $300 a client, that saved me, if I'm charging $300 a client and every client I serve within an hour a month, and I do the math, well, if that project would have taken me 10 hours, that's 3 grand. That's almost the entire fee of bookkeeping for the whole year. Not to
Right.
mention the 1 hour or 2 hours a month I would have had to do my own bookkeeping. So you have to look at any expenses that you're accruing as return on investment. So it might be tough for you to swing $300 a month early in your career, but if that allows you to not only get a bigger tax return because they're going to track your expenses better than you would,
Mhm.
but number two, it's going to save you time, it's going to save you stress, and it's going to save you bandwidth that you can use to make more money in your business. So I think
Yep.
that's a really big trait of high performers is recognize what you're good at, recognize what you're not good at, and at some point you have to be comfortable spending money to get back time.
Yeah, I think that depending on where you're at with in your level, but that's become something that I've gotten better with in the sense where like in the when I was starting my career, yeah, it was definitely like saving as much money as I could, trying to figure it out. But then as you do that, and especially when it comes to things with your business, whether it's like marketing, depending on marketing, but like sometimes I think that there's people in marketing that will 100% give you a return on your ROI
Oh
equally.
yeah.
Maybe not, but it's like once you kind of know where it makes sense, definitely worth the investment. Taxes is a huge one, especially being a business owner. Like, unless you know a ton about accounting, went to school for it on the side or something like that, chances are you are going to be losing money big time. So, by finding somebody who's educated and knows the loopholes around the system specifically for you, which is another big one. Like, I had an accountant for years that just and I just trusted them, right? Because like, oh, CPA accountant, like they handle these big clients, but those big clients didn't run the business that I did, and I didn't know any better. But I started getting my tax returns. I was like, this is insane. Like I just don't understand this. But then
Mhm.
once I started talking to people within our community, and they started explaining to me like, no, that should be a write-off. This is where you want to put your money, or this is how the business should be set up. I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Hmm.
so now it's like you develop those better connections, resources, and it's so tough because it's cliche, but it's almost like a rite of passage. But at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, if I could go back and have learned it sooner, I definitely would have. So that's why it's nice, for anybody listening to this, like, take it from us, and it may not be very like point on for your situation, but try to figure out where that's applicable in your business. Um, yeah, because it's going to save you a ton of time, ton of energy, and you're going to be able to spend way more time doing the things that you love or fulfilling and you're passionate about. And that's one of our little secret golden nuggets, man. If you can do that, you're really living a good life for sure.
Yeah. On that same note, I think freeing up time is really, really important. And a lot of the high achievers that I know have gone through that same rite of passage in another way. So I call it I call it the stupidity tax. You do things at the beginning that you end up either paying for with time or money or both. And you learn as you grow and as you mature that there are better ways of doing it. And the high performers that I know exemplify this the most when it comes to the way that they spend the quality time. So early on in my career, I was all about work. Everything I did was like, I need to work more. I need to do more and more and more and more and more. And what I've realized is when I look at the people that are in the positions of success that I want to be in, they spend the right amount of time for them actually enjoying the fruits of their labor. So they have, whether it's a specific time that you set aside during the day, like the person that I'm thinking about, between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., they don't work because that's when they do dinner, family dinner together, and he puts his son down to bed. But then from 7 to 10, before he and his wife go to bed, he's back to work. So, or it might be, another friend of mine just went on a family vacation to London. It's like you're working so hard for a reason. And if you ascribe to the marshmallow test of like just delaying gratification, working, 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 working. Well, if you take the marshmallow test, which is essentially the test is, do you want 10 marshmallows today or one marshmallow every day for 10 days or 10 marshmallows at the end of 10 days? The, the extreme of the marshmallow test is no marshmallows. You just never get a marshmallow.
Mhm.
And I think we all have learned that we need to eat a marshmallow every day, or if we're going without a marshmallow for a specific amount of time, we need to sit down and have those wins and enjoy the fruits of our labor. So like, for, I think I mentioned on one of our previous podcasts, like for Liv and I, that's vacations. So we're okay to grind for a specific period of time where, maybe we don't get to connect as much, maybe we don't get as much free time on the weekends or whatever it might be, but then we're going to go away on a trip and then we're going to spend that quality time. So that trait of enjoying the work that you're doing and the fruits of your labor while you're doing it is super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you got to figure out what works for you. Like, I mean, we were just with Dave Tate, and I've known Dave for a number of years, and ever since I known him, he's always brought up his South Carolina 2 week
Mhm.
vacation, and it's like he does that
Yeah.
every single year. Gets away, does some work remote, but it's just the whole point is go on that vacation and do the work that I need to do while I'm away. But equally, it's a mental recharge, and I think for him, like it obviously, with his career, it's pretty cool because he has all these great people that come in, very frequently. But and maybe that's how he gets that in between kind of like gratification, like a little bit of a
Yeah.
marshmallow here and there. But the big one is 2 weeks out of the year, I'm gone. Like, don't contact
Mhm.
me. Spending quality time with my family. So it could be, on a weekend, could be once a month, could be 2 weeks out of the year. But yeah, I totally agree, man. And I mean, we've always talked about it, even in person. It's like you just get such a recharge from that short time that can
Oh
it
yeah.
usually lasts way longer than the duration you were away. We go to the
Mhm.
Arnold, and that's like what, like 2 or 3 days. But I mean, since then, I mean, it's April 7th. Like, I've been cranking for over a month just
Yeah, me
from
too.
that, like, just revitalization period of getting out, hanging with your friends, and just inspires you. So I think if you can put those in when it makes sense for you, that's definitely going to help you level up. It's just same with training, man. It's like you need to have some sort of deload from training, or you need a diet break here and there to kind of reset things. And it's the same exact when it comes to your business and just your mental state as well. Like, I think a lot of
Mhm.
people just forget, like, yeah, you may be executing at such a high level and that's your thing, but once your mental health starts degrading, like, whoa, brother, like, you ain't
Yeah.
going to be able to do anything, or you're going to start watching things fall apart real quickly. So the sooner you can get more in tune with that, the better. And not like we talk about, I think a lot of high achievers and performers and are doing that. And we've talked about this before, but like even like Alex Hormozy, who this is like a
Mhm.
god in the space, he's starting to talk about more about things that he never really talked about before, whether it was relationships or more of like the
Yep.
personal side of stuff, because maybe his threshold was like years, right? But at
Mhm.
some point, there's going to be a breakdown. I'm not saying I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know the guy, but from the outside perspective, I mean, dude, that guy's been on a rampage for like years and years and years.
He was
At
the
some,
king of hustle culture. He
yeah,
was like
yeah,
the flag carrying member of hustle culture. Now
yeah.
the guy's talking about taking time away. He's talking about, spending quality time with his wife and things like that. I'm like, well, it was bound to happen eventually.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Like, you're not what's the word? Like, you can't play God. Like,
No.
eventually, like, something's gonna catch up. One of the, I mean, I guess to kind of piggyback off the more like the Hormozy thing, but this is something like I've always bought into, and I think at the end of the day, it actually makes me like more centered and feel a lot better, because it's easy to either play the comparison game or get down on yourself with what's not going right. But it's really taking that long-term approach to the business,
Mm.
and the consistency over the long haul, right? So it's like,
Yep.
for me, like, there's times where I'm like, dude, I'm behind on this or behind on that. But what reassures me is I know I'm going to be doing this way longer than most people. And
Yes.
it's like, I know if right now it's not where it will be, it's a matter of time before it gets there. And I know that a lot of people just don't want to put the duration that's required into things. Like, even with social media, dude, I didn't get followers. Like, we're talking about like externally. Like, if you were to look at my analytics on an Instagram post, it would have been like 99% of my followers were the people seeing my posts. And out of that 99%, it was probably like 600 of the 60 some thousand people,
Hmm.
that I had, where, and that's been from probably around since 2020 or 2021. But bro, I still posted, like, I still made
Yep.
videos. And it was no other reason other than I truly do enjoy it, but also, like, I'm going to be a cockroach. So it's like, even, you know what I mean? Like when we're
Yeah.
old and decrepit and hopefully not in wheelchairs, like, I'm still going to be around where the guy who was, you already had your wheelchair time, by the way. So you're not going back in a wheelchair.
Yeah. I'll probably still be in a wheelchair, but it's all good. Okay. Moving
But
on.
yeah, moving on. But we can look back and it's like, dude, we were always in the scene somehow. And it's just
Mhm.
like, it's just a battle of attrition. And I do think, kind of like you were saying earlier, you have these people getting involved with it for, I don't want to say it's like the wrong reasons, but I don't think it's the long-term sustainable reason. That you're going to see way more like somebody hitting it big, and then, hey,
Mhm.
we're so and so,
Yep.
and it's just, and I think it's also because you get a window where you're new and
Mhm.
people like new things, but everything at some point becomes a toy on the shelf. So it's just like, can you handle that? At some point that's going to fade, and that's going to be a test of your morals and values and like really why you're doing this. And can you get creative to weather the storm depending on all the other external things that are happening, whether it's tech boom, just global politics or wherever you live, right? And to me, like that's really where I enjoy that process, and I know like I'm gonna be around. So, and I think most people that are successful, maybe you see them now, but if you were to look at their track record of how long they've been in the grind and weren't noticed, it's pretty insane, man. Like some of those
Oh yeah.
stories where there's just so much underneath the surface like that, like just a typical iceberg model, and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, this person's been getting after it for like decades,
Yeah.
and
That overnight
here they
success
are.
took that overnight success took 10 years, right? Like
Oh,
that's
yep.
that's the old adage. And I think you hit the nail on the head, man. We compare ourselves to the highlight reel that we see, and we might get discouraged, or we might think, oh, I wish I had that, or this guy has it so easy, or whatever it might be. But the problems that you're facing now are problems that you wished for 10 years ago. And that
Oh
I
yeah,
come
yeah.
back to that. Like the problems that we have now with our taxes, it's like, yeah, or we could be fucking broke, which we're not. And that would
Yes.
be way worse. So I mean, um, the whole idea of just chipping away. My favorite definition that I've ever put forth for consistency, and I use it with my nutrition clients all the time, is consistency is not being perfect over a long period. It's doing mostly the right things most of the time for a really long time. And if you apply that to anything that you do, whether it be business or training or nutrition, it holds true because the people that do this the longest with the most consistency are the ones who are most successful. Look at a guy like Stan Efferding set his world record when he was 42 years old. He was the
Mhm.
strongest person on the planet at 42 years old. If you continue to chip away slowly but surely over time, you will not like people overestimate what they can do in a year, in a week, but they underestimate how much they can do in a year. Extrapolate that into a decade. Like if you just kept chipping away for a decade, how far along would you be? And so, like, I think that perspective is huge. And to continue to snowball off of this, I was brought this was brought to my attention actually today because the buddy that I was talking to about boundaries, he brought forth this visa that I had no idea existed. I don't know if I've mentioned it on this podcast. No, you and I have had a conversation about it, but the visa that Olivia and I are on right now for the US is doesn't have a track towards a citizenship. So we can renew it indefinitely every 5 years as long as we keep doing business and are in good standing with the IRS. But we can never apply for a citizenship or a green card through this visa. When we have a child, our child, when they turn 18, can sponsor us, and that is a direction we could take. But there's a visa called an EB1A. They all have like random numbers and letters. EB1A, which is essentially like an exemplary contribution within your field. And my buddy messaged me. He goes, you would qualify for this because you only have to qualify for 3 out of the 10 criteria. And I have like 7 or 8 of them.
Oh wow.
But what the reason why this is front of mind for me is it forced me to reflect on how much I've contributed to the industry and the progress that I've made over the last 20 years of coaching. I've been a published researcher. I've worked with, pro level athletes. I've mentored over 100 coaches. There have been over 500 coaches that have gone through Coaches Corner University. I've worked with thousands of clients. I've been on tons of big podcasts and I had speaking engagements. And a part of putting together this visa application is reaching out to people and having them write letters of recommendation on the way that you've contributed to the industry at scale. And it really, brought what you were saying into perspective of I've just been doing it a really long time and I've been doing it consistently for a really long time. And if you told me when I first started coaching, if you had told me, um, uh, when I first started coaching that like this is the life that I would lead and these are the contributions that I would have had, I wouldn't believe you. But then if I think now, but like if I keep doing this for another 10 or 20 years, man, where am I going to be? It's wild. And I think the high performers, like they recognize their contributions, they recognize the wins that they've had, and they don't rest on their laurels. They keep growing, but they keep growing because they're just doing the same things for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like when you're consistent over the long haul, there's always and it's happened not not a ton of times, but it's happened often enough that I almost know it to be true at this point that you really never know the day where like something life or career changing in a positive way
Mhm.
is going to happen. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's
totally.
just because the compounding hard work or connections or luck, right? But if you're around for the long haul, you technically think of like each day as a ticket to the lottery. You're just accruing more and more and more of those tickets compared to somebody who gets in a hot flash, right? And then they're out of the game. But if you're in that game, man, like you're constantly in that room where people keep coming in and out and you're the constant, somebody is you're going to walk in that room sometime who's a game orchestrator and be like, "Hey, here's the opportunity," just
Yep.
because you've been here this often. And I think for people that maybe are questioning or, hey, I don't know, man, I'm putting in all this time and this effort. And it's like, if you truly are and you're truly trying to contribute or level up and chasing growth, it really is a matter of time
Hmm.
before you get this big opportunity. And I always say, you know, it's it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know, and then you show the people who you know what you know. You know
Oh,
what
I
I
like
mean?
that.
So it's
Hmm.
like I just have to, get in the right rooms, network, which is something we've talked about in a whole other podcast. But then it's like, boom, once you have that opportunity and you've put all that time behind, like for you, like, yeah, when I think of you, it's like, dude, you have so much uh credentials when it comes to like university and all these other things that sometimes it's easily forgotten about. But then it's just like, boom, yeah, I'm Pauline, and like I did X, Y, boom, 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 boom at this time, this time, this time. I have this knowledge, and then these people see it and they're like, oh my dude, this guy's a shark, and then
Hmm.
that just opens a whole other door. So for those people really getting after it, just know like you're one day away from some sort
Yeah.
of lottery ticket. And that should be enough to, inspire you or keep the faith. Because if if you quit, man, or if you change something else, like now you got to rebuild in a completely different way. I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong or right, but just know that if you're on this track and you're paving this way, like you have a whole trail behind you that at some
Oh,
point is
yeah.
going to be picked up on. So yeah, I totally agree. And kind of piggybacking even off of that point along this journey, something I was thinking about is like, I don't want to even say it's because it's like easy to say, like, constantly be looking for like a growth or like a mindset, but it is true to constantly be raising your own standards. Like when I look back
Mm.
as like a coach, when I started, it wasn't that I was a bad coach and I had really good intention, but I needed to have the awareness to be like, okay, how can I level up my standard in this realm? Because
Mhm.
and I know you do the same exact thing. Like you're one of the biggest
Oh, yeah.
advocates for it. But even like now, when I look at my coaching with some of my clients versus how it was in the past, it's a million times better.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
not that I was a bad coach. It's just like I needed to either like, and sometimes it's come from me hiring a coach and being like, oh my gosh, like how was I not doing this? Or I really like that they did this. Now I need to implement it, with my clients or my
Mhm.
business. And it's easy when things are good and they're working to get complacent and not think about that. But I think it's something we constantly have to remind ourselves of, and even on like little, like there's so many little things. Like one thing for me is if you don't know me, like I can have a resting bitch face. And I've been this way my whole life. Like I would be in school and I'd be sitting there and I'm totally fine. I'm happy in my own mind. But people were like afraid to talk to me, which in my mind, I'm like, why doesn't anybody want to talk to me? But I needed to be told like sometime, like I remember I talked to this girl and she kind of like she's like got a little scared. And I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I just like I was intimidated by you, and I realized like you're just actually a really nice person. I'm like, damn, like okay, well now I need to be a little bit more aware of
Hmm.
like now it's even just like, hey, smile more. Like even I just have to remind myself, like when I see somebody, just smile or say hi, just to open that doorway because then I can, like and I sometimes I would be willing or not willing, I would be wanting people to just come up and say something to me, and then I could just go. But also, like I have to set the standard for myself, like go be the person to open the door. Like you know what I mean?
Yep.
You don't have to wait for other people, and it's like little things like that and just overarching principle of just raising your personal standards that I think can go a long way. But this like that's a great reason why we're doing this podcast. This is
Dude,
a once a
100%.
week reminder for me to like level up my standard or
Me
think
too.
about what were we saying when we started this podcast. Damn, okay, well we still got to keep on that. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yep.
just a constant reminder for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like the entire thesis behind my businesses is raising the bar. And
Yeah.
I try to use that across everything that I do. Because even if you're the best at something, there's always an opportunity for you to continue to be better. And take like again, front of mind because I'm reading a book on it right now. Our onboarding for our new clients. I think we do a better job than 99.99% of coaches when they onboard a new client. When someone jumps on a sales call with us, number one, as soon as they click purchase, instead of getting a generic Stripe thank you page, they get a video from us, whoever they signed up with, thanking them for their purchase. Then, as soon as they open the app, that's an automated download. So they get a download link, they download the app. There's a video of Olivia and I welcoming them to the company. Then they get a personalized DM video message from the coach that they hired. Then they get a video the next day from their coach uh, walking them through how to use the app. Then they get another video talking about coach athlete relationship. And by that third day, they're jumping on an onboarding call. And so, by the time they've clicked purchase and then talked to their coach again, they've had 5 face-to-face touch points with someone from our business. That's phenomenal. And people rave about it. But the book that I'm reading right now is telling me, hey, there's other ways that you can improve upon this. Like, is there some sort of free gift that you can offer? Is there additional education that you can offer? Is there, a different way that you can conduct that sales call that improves the quality of the relationship right from the beginning? And so, even though we do that thing really, really well, we're always looking to make improvements upon it. Same thing with the mentorship that I do is how can I continue to pour into these people? How can I continue to provide value? Whether, in my own training, it's like, how can I continue to seek alternate things of discomfort? Like, it's funny because I remember I did that 111 challenge with the
Mhm.
ruck, the
Yeah.
weighted vest. And okay. So I was just thinking, I was like, why don't I do a 3-3-3 challenge? Just do the same thing, but do 3 miles of each. I'm like, does that serve any purpose other than being hard? Not really, but it's just hard and it's going to make me better in some way, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. And I think just because you're good at something, and I'm not good at running, but even if you're good at something, like just keep trying to get better. Because at no point will trying to get better make you worse.
Yeah.
Like,
No, 100%.
so yeah, I think everything that we touched on just resonates really deeply. And I think, like you said, I find these conversations inspiring because having being in this industry behind a screen is kind of lonely. And so I think a lot of the time we can have these thoughts that we might think aren't being echoed by others, but to sit across from you and to know that, like, oh no, Joey agrees with me and he's having these same feelings, like it makes me feel a lot less alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think at the end of the day, it's just the human aspect and component of it, and I think too, like that's sometimes just a lost art of coaching, right? Where it's like, I have a client, and I won't go too long about it because I know we're going to wrap it up, but he's crushing it. Super. Why am I forgetting the word? Compliant. Yes, that's the
Mhm.
word. My brain is mush. My spreadsheets, like, dude, at my computer right now are absolutely insane with just numbers, and it's awful. But super compliant. Like, you look at his before and after pictures. He's been with me. He's been with me for a year, but he's on week 18. I mean, dude looks phenomenal. He's lost about 20 pounds. Strength is going up. Absolutely crushing it. But he's been having some personal struggles at home, especially with one of his kids. It has to deal with like mental health, right? And like, obviously, I'm a pretty big advocate when it comes to
Mhm.
mental health, and I've been in my own mental health situations or had family members, etc. And I think sometimes my response, like, I think sometimes people are afraid to actually tell you what could potentially be going on because we get looked at as coaches. Like, obviously, we want to keep them compliant and adherent to things, but I think sometimes the next level is the understanding of what that person's going through psychologically, emotionally, physically. And
Mhm.
my response, is basically, dude, this is a crazy time in your life. Like, these are the bare minimums that we need to hit, which, like, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like, it's almost like it's going to deviate him. But I know from my own personal experience that I've gone through and with coaching people, the worst thing that I could do to this person, and this is specifically to him, like, I have to understand the psychology of people. And that's like what just comes with coaching. Like, you have people you can really get
Yeah.
on and they thrive and love that. This could probably break the guy if I'm like, you know what, you got a lot of crap going on in your life right now. We just got to buckle down even more, and it's
Yeah.
like, I understand, blah, blah, blah. So with him, we took the different approach, but he appreciated that so much, or even just going out of my way to be like, hey, how's your kid doing? Like, what's the deal with like that? You know what I mean? Speaking of kids,
Mhm. So I was
um,
just gonna say it's so cute, the
yeah, little
laughing in the
man. Oh,
background.
dude, it's the best. But and it just kind of goes to show you, like, as you grow, it's a very gray area. It's not black or white. Sometimes you think you want to be hardcore, but it's like sometimes doing hardcore is like the most unhardcore thing you can do, right? It's like, what's what's
100%.
what's the best thing when it comes to like some sort of fight or physical altercation? It's don't get involved in one. You know what I
Yep,
mean? Like, it was,
de-escalate.
yeah, yeah, de-escalate. Like, people think, oh yeah, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass or I'm gonna pull my gun out. I'm just like, dude, that's the last thing that I ever
Mhm.
want to do to
Yep.
anybody. So it's like, look at that in your business or the clients you work with. And sometimes it's that out of the box thinking, or it may seem counterintuitive, but once again, hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 months out of this guy's life where he's really struggling. But grand scheme of thing, like we talk about, if we're consistently doing the right things, like, once he
Mhm.
gets through that, oh my gosh, like, now I think it's like coming out of the cocoon, like, he's going to really blossom and flourish. So just, yeah, just a personal example, but no, dude, I absolutely, yeah, I look forward to this every week. I think it's therapeutic for both of us. It also kind of destigmatizes certain aspects of
Oh, yeah.
high performers and what we need to be like as people, and how we need to handle our business, and that we don't necessarily have all the answers all the time, and we have, those struggles that make us human.
Mhm.
But we're just stepping up every day and, just trying to build forward. And that's what this whole thing's about. And I know people listening to this are going to hear it and be like, damn, yeah, like, I'm in that same position, or I'm in that same boat. And that's why we started this podcast.
Dude, that was a perfect segue. You did your own perfect segue.
There we go, dude.
There you
See, I'm
go.
picking up. I'm picking up what you're putting down, bro.
You'd love it. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Like, share, subscribe, let people know about it, and we'll catch you next week.
Stay moving or building. Damn, I ruined it, Paul. I ruined it.
Stay
Cut.
building a way forward.
Stay forward, not backwards. All right. Love you guys.
Love you too. Bye.